So we all love to knit shawls, but we don't always know how to wear them or how to style them, right? Tonight, I am so excited to have with me Laura Bellows from Jul Designs, who is an incredible master at styling shawls. She owns the company, as I said, Jul Designs, and she has so many clever shawl closures and techniques that take your shawls to absolutely the next level so that you'll feel beautiful wearing them and confident, and they'll stay put. So, super excited to share that with you tonight. I'm Ellen Lewis from Crazy for You. And if you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get this kind of information and more about garments that you can knit that you are absolutely proud to wear. So, hi, Rita. Hey, Polly, Eveline, Arlene. So nice to see you tonight. Hey, Valerie and Sandy. So, let me go ahead and bring Laura on. Put in my earphone here. Hi, Laura.
Hi there.
So we have a little bit of an issue. You're going to maybe hear me through Laura's microphone, so just ignore that, but it's going to be great. So welcome, welcome. It's so nice to have you.
I am so pleased to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. So we go back a ways, right? I think I came up to your studio in Baltimore in first time in 2012, right?
Oh, was it 2000? Gosh, is it that long ago? Yes, I have. I'm no longer in that space right now. I'm in a very different space. This was my husband's photographic studio, so you can't see how magnificent this space is, but I do. I have a nice plain background and a kind of fancy rig, which allows me to have to do this kind of visit with you.
So it's beautiful. So why don't, for anybody who doesn't already know who you are and what Jul Design is about, why don't you just share with us a little bit about your background and how you got into doing what you do and kind of your vision for Jul and how you help knitters?
Oh, the whole "how did I end up here" story is kind of a long story.
Well,
So
the short version.
the short version, the short version is that I never intended to be here. I was trained as an anthropologist, and I did my field research in cultural anthropology, working with living people, dealing with living culture in Bali, Indonesia, from 1998 to 2000. And during that time, my sister, Noni of Noni Patterns, was developing a pattern company specializing in patterns for knitted felted bags. And she was really disappointed with the hardware options she had here in the United States available to her. So she, knowing that there was this robust sterling silver jewelry industry in Bali, asked me, well, do you think you could help me find something interesting? And I thought, sure, I can do that. And I did. And I got connected to my creative partner, who I still work with now. He's now married. He now has a child, and his wife also works for Jul. And those relationships were put in place at that moment. I later left academia and then started doing this work. And how I ended up doing shawl pins, I was doing this super, super fancy bag hardware with set stones and, really over the top stuff. And I took it to a show as bag jewelry, and I kept hearing, oh, wow, this would be a really beautiful shawl pin. Meanwhile, I had this line of knitting needles that I developed that nobody wanted to buy because they'd already committed to other companies. And so I had all these beautiful rosewood needles in small sizes sitting there, not going anywhere. So I said, oh, for you, a shawl pin. And I cut off my knitting needles and sharpened them with a pencil sharpener. And that's how that happened. But so what it meant was everything was in place to do a beautiful line of artisanal shawl pins with the rosewood worker, the silver people, and it just worked. And that's how that started.
That's fabulous. I had no idea you had a line of knitting needles. That was what year was that? That must have been like 2010.
No, it was like 2008 or 7.
Okay. Okay.
It was earlier than that. Yeah.
Very
And they're
cool.
beautiful. I still have them, of course.
Of
And
course you
nobody
do.
now uses straight needles, but they're gorgeous. They are beautiful.
I have a set of rosewood knitting needles. You know, I mean, I use straights occasionally, not very often anymore, but yeah, I know what you mean. So I think about like what you and I do. You know, we are so on the same page about being helping people wear the stuff that they knit and making sure that the things that we knit are wearable and all of that. You know, I'm all about fit and sweaters and stuff. And I think you fill such an important gap between, we were talking about this earlier, between the designer and the knitter. And you know, I wrote about it in the blog post, if you read my newsletter, about how it's very hard to know how to style a shawl because you don't ever see it styled. You see it kind of laid out. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I do. I do. You know, I think that often what we see on a pattern is quite deceptive. Um, Impossible stylings that look good in the picture, but if you just sneezed, would fall apart, or a breeze comes by and the whole thing is a disaster. And what the designer doesn't give you is guidance on how to achieve the look that they have carefully crafted, or they don't even necessarily give you a look that's feasible. It might be something like this, right?
Yeah, we see that all the time.
That's not wearable, right? It's not about wearability. It's about look at this knit in 2 dimensions, but we then have to wear it in 3 dimensions. We have to make that shift from flat fabric to garment that's wrapped around the volume of the body. And so when I think about knitting, like this is one of the shapes that I've made just so that I have, not something that has brioche or is exciting visually in that way, but something that's a simple shape so that you can look at any asymmetrical triangle that you might have and get ideas from what I do with my asymmetrical triangle. One of the things that I think about is where's the cast on? And where's the bind off? Because those are going to be areas that unless you do a stretchy cast on or bind off, they're going to be tight. And so it will look great stretched out, but it won't necessarily feel great wrapped around the body. So when I'm thinking about designs that I'm looking at in 2 dimensions, I'm already trying to wrap those designs around the body, because that's what's going to get them out of your closet and out of your bureau and onto your body. Is, do they work for you in 3 dimensions? We have this conceit that shawls don't have size, but they have scale. And scale matters because you're really tall. I know this because I've interacted with you, and I always feel like a little girl when I'm with you. And so your scale is really different than my scale. And so what can work for me is not necessarily going to work for you because your torso is so much longer. Your measurement from here to your waist is different than mine, or from here, from your shoulder to your hip bone is longer. So yes, I think what I've tried to do is think through methods that any knitter can use to approach a shawl, analyze what that 2-dimensional design is doing, and have a methodology for getting that on the body, experimenting with wrapping it in different ways, and then using that method to find exciting, kind of unvisualized by the knitwear designer, unvisualized styling possibilities that look great and can be affixed
Right. They
with
stay.
the styling tools so that they work on the body.
Okay. So show us the shape of the shawl that you're wearing right now. Just show us again in this.
So this is an asymmetrical triangle.
Okay. So it's All right.
Sorry.
But it does sort of have a
So
central point at the bottom there.
it is off to one side, and there are different rates of increase and decrease on the two sides.
Okay.
And this one, I didn't have enough yarn to go to a point, so I, stopped knitting. I didn't try to find more yarn, and I ended up really liking the fact that I have a blunt end on this side instead of the same point, because then what it ended up doing for me is it gives me more styling possibilities, because this is garter, so it's reversible.
Right.
It's knit side to side, so my top all of my edges are stretchy.
So when
and
you
so I
knit a shawl for the first time, what are you looking for? When somebody's got a shawl that they've just finished and it's a triangle or an asymmetrical triangle, how should they approach that when they think, I'm going to put this on my body? What should they be looking for first?
instead of doing this, going for the center, instead of doing that, what I like to do is take almost all of the volume to one side. So I've got just a little bit here, because I think we have very interesting possibilities for drape and composition when we have more volume on one side than the other. Now, I don't have a step ladder here for you to show you, but the point of my triangle comes to the top of my boot. I wear little boots that come up over my ankles. So most of the volume is coming down the front. So I've got a flat styling here.
It's very dramatic, right? And you folded that over at the top to give yourself a little collar.
Yeah. And I could do that even more.
Right.
Just that. Look how that changed it.
Yes. So you have a huge amount of drama when you do that, but that's not going to live in real life, so this is where your stuff comes in.
No, it does. Oh, you mean it wouldn't stay there if I didn't do something?
Right. I mean, it might for the photo, but
I mean, I could take the photo like that, right?
Exactly.
That's the photo. It's like,
right. When we need to get on with our life, have dinner or go someplace,
right, or pick something up off the floor and it just fell apart, right? This is what happens.
So this is where Jul's stuff comes in, where it's so fabulous.
Right. And so when I'm looking, you asked for my methodology. So if I want to do this, say, we could say, oh, that's impossible. But it's not impossible. So the trick is to think, okay, if I want to wear this, where is the styling going to fail if I don't do something? That's the question. Where is it going to fail? And wherever it's going to fail, you put a closure. So with this kind of flat styling, because I love flat stylings, and I'll tell you why. They're not bulky or bunchy, so they're not going to distort the body. They show the knitting, and it's comfortably wrapped, and I can really control how the knitwear behaves. I don't like knitwear misbehavior. It's
no.
Really
what do you
annoying.
mean when you say flat styling? What does that mean exactly?
It's not like this.
Yeah.
All bunched.
As we try to hold it onto our body with no help.
And that's where you're like, and it falls down and you do
right. Okay, flat styling. So that's a new term.
Yeah. So I like flat stylings because I'm controlling the composition. I think of knitwear on the body as composition, like a painting. Where does your eye go? I want to control that. As a woman, I want to control where somebody is looking on my body. And I think a lot of us feel like that. So for example, so you may think, well, why does it matter? Well, here's an example. I did a workshop where I talked about that. Where does your eye go? Pay attention. And one of my participants said she realized, now I'm going to just start styling with the mid-century modern pedestal. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. There we go. So these are my mid-century modern stylings pedestal button, what do you call it? They're called mid-century modern stud buttons.
Yeah,
And
stuff.
it's a closure that is a no-sew button-like component that will go through the stitches. So I'm just going to start styling while I'm talking.
And why do you decide to put it there? How do you know where to put it, where to put your first pin?
I want to control the relationship of the upper and lower parts of the fabric. And I want to control where this overlap falls in the neck in relation to the neck.
Okay.
So that's
so you
why
could
I'm
have it
starting
higher
there.
or lower, right?
Yeah, so I could have a plunging look, but I don't want to, because I want this part to cover the bust. I'm bringing that over like that because I want to cover the bust.
Okay.
And so I think I had, let's see, I'll relocate that just a little. So she was working with one of her shawls. She liked symmetrical triangular shawls, kind of short, small ones. She didn't like big pieces. And when she arranged it on her body the way she normally did, which was to make it asymmetrical so that it fell down the front, she would do a center closure. She realized that the two ends of her shawl stopped at the crotch. And she reported to the group, she said, I never noticed that, and I don't like it. I never even saw it. And when I saw it, I didn't like it. That isn't where I want the eye to go.
Right.
So she said, now I know I'm going to go longer.
Right. And you can create that vertical line too, on your body, which can be very flattering for all of us, or, maybe not so much for me because I am tall. Maybe I don't want to look taller. Maybe I want to, have something sort of horizontal that makes me look not quite so tall. You can do that. So you put the one in at the top, and most people would stop there. Most people would say, okay, I got my shawl closure in and I'm good, right?
So I put this one here because I want this to stay here at the rib. I want this line. So you see, I've got this little cut here, and I want this to be here. I think I want to thin out that angle. So see what it's doing under here?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to if I don't put a closure here, as I move, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
You see what happened? It all migrated.
Yes.
All the knitwear migrated to here. That's
Gravity.
what would happen. And it would happen over and over. And so I would end up doing that. And then it would migrate. And I would pull it back.
Right. And then you're fiddling with your garments all the time, which is not
fiddling with it all the time, which I call unnecessary suffering. It's a kind of quiet, unnecessary suffering. So I'm going to put one more closure here. And I think I'm going to do a triangle this time.
I love that. Quiet, unnecessary suffering.
And, here's the thing that's so terrible. We get used to it.
We're women.
I know, it's like pain. Oh, yeah, I guess I'm in pain. Yeah, I'm in pain. Oh.
Yeah. Where's my epidural?
Oh, dear, I'm in pain.
So I just wanted to remind everybody,
is being in pain.
If you're watching and you have a question or a comment, please put it in the comments, because this is live, and Laura is here. She will answer your questions. I think this is the most fabulous opportunity. It's not a limited edition opportunity because we've already agreed that we like this and this is fun and we're going to do it again. But today she's talking about this stuff. So if you have a question or, something, please put it in the comments so she can answer.
I just grabbed a chair because I really have to show you the bottom of
it. Oh, please be careful. Oh, that looks so cute.
So if I were going to wear this out for the night, do you see what just happened?
Yes.
So to me, that's a problem. So I would have to address that. And the way to address it would be to add another closure somewhere. I would mess around with it and get it so that it would behave better, because I don't like what's happening there. That's knitwear misbehavior.
But the idea is that, with these movable button things, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah, so I'm going to take it apart. Do you see how fast this is?
Yes.
So I tried something. It's like, okay, that was kind of successful. That was partially successful. You got some ideas about the way I think about knitwear. So I'm gonna try again to get
All right.
something that I
So
like
Betty
better.
has
I
a
see a
question here.
question in the chat.
Yeah. What happens to the long point at her ankles?
Okay, Betty, I love the long point in my ankles. I love it. And it doesn't bother me. I mean, I can wear a piece of knitwear that falls to my boot and wear it all day and be really happy about it. But I don't garden like that.
No, we're not wearing our shawls to garden. And I think we can all agree on that. But yeah, I mean, that's a look. And that's something that, that's part of your personal style aesthetic. I look at like Anne, who just happened to buy a mid-century modern piece, and I can totally see her wearing it asymmetrical. And I can totally see you wearing one of these and pinning it around in some way and looking ever so fabulous and, asymmetrical.
Right. Okay, I'm going to do something that probably most of you don't do when you're wearing your shawls. I'm going to bring half of it under my arm. And what's going to start to occur. So I can bring it over the bust, or I can bring it under the bust. I think I'm going to have it under the bust. And then it almost starts to have kind of this side starts to look almost sleeve, kimono-ish. I know I'm not supposed to say the word kimono, but
kimono simply means something to wear.
I know, but there's been that whole uproar about using the word kimono in debates about cultural appropriation. I have a philosophy about cultural appropriation. We should talk about that sometime.
Okay, but not tonight. I would love to talk about that. And Patty, yes, she will show the penannular because that is gorgeous, and we have those, and I love them.
I want to talk about. I'm just styling this again using the same components because they're just so fast and easy to use.
Yes. So I just want you to know this is a very Jul kind of style. I mean, she can carry this sort of Amazonian thing. The rest of us mortals maybe cannot.
Hey, I'm going to object there because I'm going to ask you, have you tried?
I have not tried.
All right, then. You don't know. You have to try.
I do have to try. But again, I have to be true to my personal style.
Well, okay, fair enough. But hey, could it become part of your personal style?
Perhaps. I mean, I do love the asymmetrical thing. I mean, I think we do tend to, and I have like two ways of wearing a shawl. I put the point in the center and I bring it around and it looks like a bandana and it looks fine until it doesn't. But mostly I find shawls, I don't knit them because wearing them makes me feel frumpy. And you never look frumpy in your shawls. Like never, ever, ever. Be careful.
I'm going to stand in my chair again.
Okay, that looks cool. And that's not gonna fall off your body, right?
No, it's not going to fall off my body. I would have to wear it for a few minutes to make sure that it's managed in all of the ways that I would want it to be managed. Like I think maybe I need another closure here in order for it not to start, migrating in ways that are super annoying. I mean, that's what I do is I try it on. If it's behaving in a way that's annoying, then it needs to be changed.
All right.
And so then the question is, okay, why is it failing? Where is it failing? How does it feel? Am I uncomfortable? And this is it's comfortable. I'm not sure I would wear it like this, but it's fun to kind of experiment with the idea of, does this feel like me?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think it's adorable. I just had a question from someone. Do I sell these? Oh, yes, I sell these. I love Jul stuff. Love, love, love it. So let me put a
Now,
link.
Ellen, I don't know if you have my blackened versions of these, but for your
Not
customers
yet.
who don't want to have the bright white metal, I do have them in a patina. And the patina is really cool because it comes in, I do them, I hand patina them in the studio. And for whatever, I'm not sure what influences the color, but sometimes they come out purpley and sometimes they kind of come out blue and sometimes they kind of come out bronzy. So
That
there
sounds
ends
nice.
up being kind of a beautiful range, you know, when like silver will tarnish, it will get all those gorgeous colors.
Right. So these are not magnetic. These have little leather closures on the back. Yeah, they're actually quite fabulous. Do you see that little knob on there? And then there's a little piece of leather that goes on the other side and stays, keeps it close.
So here's the backing. So when it goes onto the piece, that's on the back. And
Right.
the knitwear is in between.
Right. And you see how it has that ball tip on the end of it? So it's never going to snag or break your knitting, you know? And that will go with any
It's
fingering weight.
really smooth. These are hand finished. So they're lost wax castings that are then hand polished to a fine, like a really gloss, high gloss finish. And then once they're high gloss, then we take them down to a satin finish. So you can see the lines that were put on when they then brought them back down from a high gloss to a satin finish. So they're very smooth and they're light.
So can you kind of do your magic with like small things? I mean, I love the way you turn a large shawl into a garment, but I think it's also magical the way you're able to turn a rectangle that feels too small to do anything. Do you know what I mean? We were talking about this earlier.
Yes, and I really like a short rectangle. So this is a short rectangle. It's not even fully wingspan.
It's just maybe just over a yard.
So it's kind of like, you know, if you wanted to wear it like a scarf like this, it would just cross and cover the bust. I mean, and I'm small, so you know, when we have this issue of scale, if you're broader shouldered and taller than it's and have a luxurious bosom, then this wouldn't be long enough for you. So for me, a short rectangle is about right when you can get the two sides to come to right in front of your shoulders. To me, that's a good size. And I think one of the things that I did recently with a short rectangle like this, again with the pedestal buttons, but I'll show you some other closures, not just pedestal buttons.
We are kind of obsessed with those at the shop.
Oh, they're so good. But like a shawl stick, for example, one of the superpowers of a shawl stick, and I know that you have this one, Ellen.
Isn't that beautiful? This is the tendril.
The wild grape tendril, which was cast from a real grape tendril. The thing that's wonderful about sticks is that they manage 4 inches of knitwear at one go with one component. It's the only shawl closure that I have that does that. All of the other closures need multiple components in order to manage that much real estate on the shawl. But the stick does it all by itself. And so the wiggles that we have in our sticks are designed to capture the knitwear. So you want to exploit them by threading that stick in and out multiple times.
I think you make a really great point about that one and the shape of it. The fact that it has its little twists and its textures, and that really does kind of help it hold its shape and hold on to the fabric real estate, like you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we used to make straight sticks, and I had people call me sometimes saying, "Oh my God, I lost my beautiful shawl stick." And so we started doing wiggles in the sticks after that, so that we would minimize that problem for our customers.
So when you have that, go ahead.
Yeah.
When you have that on, that short, can you sort of stand on tiptoe and show us what the rest of it looks like?
Oh, sorry, I'll get my chair. I really need a little, just a couple of steps here, but I don't have that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so that, and where's their other sides? So both of the sides are kind of right there together?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just let this kind of hang down.
Show us that. I know you just.
Does it have je ne sais quoi?
Mais bien sûr. It does.
Just kind of looks like I just threw it on there, which I did, right?
You clearly read my blog post.
I did, but the great thing is that I have said exactly that way before I ever saw your blog post. Looked at, done something, and said, "Oh, and now it has that je ne sais quoi."
That's why French women are so fabulous. All right, that's really cute. Could you do the same thing? I want to show you
another short. I'm sorry?
Could you do the same thing, or maybe show another one with a penannular? How does that work?
Absolutely. In fact, that's actually why I said that the two sides should cross to come to here, because one of the ways that I think a short rectangle is fabulous is with penannular breeches, 2 of them.
Yes.
Okay. One here and one here.
You could do like a button, one button and one button, or one penannular and a button.
You absolutely could. Yeah, absolutely. And so talking like this, saying, well, you could do this, or you could do that, or what if you do this, or can you try X? I call that creative play.
Yes.
And I strongly encourage all of you watching and listening to take some time with some friends and a bottle of wine or whatever to engage in creative play with your knitwear.
This sounds like a fun evening at the shop.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A styling party. And so use the methodology that I told you about. Start at one end with very little volume and most on the other side. Wrap, try different things, and keep moving down the piece of knitwear until you end up with all of the volume on the other side and very little over here. And then turn the knitwear upside down and do it again.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
And if you have a reversible pattern, of course, it's better.
Now, if you were to take that off and turn it upside down, what would happen? Would that work?
This one?
Gwen, by the way, loves your small rectangle. She's a very tiny person, and
I don't know if I can do.
Just try it. What the heck?
Okay, fine.
Put it over one shoulder.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
So, I don't know. That's kind of good. I think they're okay. So I wouldn't wear it with 2 penannulars because I'm starting to feel like these are almost like boobs.
Right, little headlights.
But there's
you could do a penannular on a stick, couldn't you? What?
There's something about this shape in relation to this shape that I like, and so I would take off the penannulars and try to do something with that. Figure out what is it that I think could be working about this, and what closure would do it better. That would be how I would approach doing something with this. So Gwen's asking about this pattern. There isn't a pattern and you don't need one. What I decided was, how big did I want, how wide did I want these ribs? I got my gauge. Then that told me how many stitches in my rib. I can't remember how many it is. Maybe it's, let's say it's 20. I measured from shoulder to waist, and I made my 20-20 rib work like that. And then I knitted until I could cross it over and wrap it around, you know, so that it came to here. That's the pattern.
You could do this, Gwen. You could absolutely do this, and then you're a designer.
Yes. Yep. And it's 2 skeins. This was knit on 2s. It's fingering. I picked very close colors so you can see where I switched right here.
Beautiful.
And then when it's on, I get that slightly different but very similar color.
So, you know, when you have the closures like this, you're able to stretch your shawls to fit. You know, we have to, when we don't have closures and we don't have support structures in there, we have to arrange it very carefully and move just like this. And then we feel affected and awkward. Whereas when it's stretched around your body, you know it's going to stay there. And what was it you said earlier? It felt like
oh, it's like a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, okay, so I'm in love with my pedestal, my stud buttons. That's like, it's all I want to use right now because they're exciting. I'm still investigating their power, and they are very powerful. So when I wrap this like this, what I want to do is just use a bunch of the stud buttons. And God, I love how fast they are. I just can't even tell you. And I'll tell you why I love the speed. Not, you know, it's not just because we all want instant gratification. It's because when you're working creatively and you're inspired and you really want to find out, okay, what happens if I do this? Having something be too slow and too hard is really frustrating. And the fact that these are so fast, it's like my hands can keep up with my brain. My
Almost.
interest doesn't get slowed down. Like I'm totally focused. I'm not distracted. I'm not like getting frustrated because it's easy. It's easy and fast. Yes. And so it doesn't slow down that kind of creative energy.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to do. And I think, you know, I think a styling party after the first of the year would be like the most fun thing we could do. That would be amazing. Serve champagne, come and play.
Yes, I think it sounds great.
It does. So how would you approach like lacy shawls? Do you ever wear those? Do you style those?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't wear lace because lace is not, I mean, I actually really love lace, but I don't knit lace. I'm kind of a dyslexic knitter. I have trouble following patterns, which is why I have to make stuff up. Because there's something about the code that I have trouble with. And so I attend to the needs of lace knitters in that I work to make lightweight closures.
Yes. Can you talk about that a minute? I think that's really, really important because we've all had the experience of this big, beautiful, heavy thing that does the opposite of what we want it to do in our garments.
Right. Because you don't want it to like be pulling, weighing the whole piece down. These components that I'm working with right now, the stud buttons, the mid-century modern studs, these took a long time for us to bring out. I knew the design, but we went through 3 or 4 iterations that we rejected and refined because the shaft was too big, the ball was too big, and the whole thing was too heavy. So we needed to retain the strength of the piece so that when you're manipulating it with the stiff leather backing. It wouldn't be, we didn't want, sorry, I'm trying to get it isolated so that my camera will focus, and it's not doing it. The top, we wanted the top thin enough that it wouldn't be heavy, but not so thin that it would bend. We wanted the shaft to be thin enough so that it would not disrupt the shape of the knitwear, but not so thin that it would bend. And we needed the ball to be light and small enough that it wouldn't weigh the piece down, but also big enough that we could have a buttonhole component where there was enough difference between the ball and the shaft that it would work. So there were a lot of things that had to be just right. And it took a long time, but we got the weight down. Gosh, what was the original weight? I don't remember what the original weight was, but I think we got it in about half.
You know, guys, if you had these, you would never have to knit another buttonhole on your cardigan again.
No, you definitely would not have to.
I mean, and I love cardigans, but the commitment to me of a button and a buttonhole, it's just like, okay, too much. You could just put on these, where and when you wanted them, and that would be amazing, right? And then take them off and no sweat.
Yeah, because then your cardigan can be double-breasted sometimes if you want it to be. Or you could ruch up one side to make it asymmetrical and give it a little of that je ne sais quoi. And the possibilities expand for styling that cardigan.
How would you approach a semicircular kind of shawl? Do you ever knit those? We have a lot of people that knit some semicircular shawls. What else is it back there in your bag of tricks?
Semicircular.
Like
so you mean like a half? Do you mean like a half moon? Like a half?
No. I mean more like, I guess, a crescent shape.
So it's shaped like this.
Yeah, sort of. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Like, well, I'm not sure. There's so many. You mean like
something that's not quite so angular? Something with a lot of curves. We have a lot of customers who like to knit, like Boots makes these crescent-shaped shawls with these beautiful sort of ends that twirl. Or a lot of the shawls that I have a hard time styling they start at one end and they just get wider, and they never get small. They're just wide at one end and tiny at the other, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge. It is a challenge, especially if they're really, really long. I think there are very, very many shawls, shawl patterns, shawl designs that are essentially unwearable. I think they're unwearable. From a live in it, be comfortable in it, everyday kind of level of wearability, they're not wearable. I mean, if you want to wrap it around and around your neck and then just tie it and have it be, and then have that be done, then that's wearable. But for me, I don't want to wear something that's bunched up around my neck, and I want to see the knitting. I want to see the knitting.
Show me the knitting.
Show me the knitting. And the flat stylings that I can set and forget, because if it's flat and I'm controlling the way that whole piece of knitwear behaves, then I don't have the problem of something slumping and falling off and slouching and dragging and ending up on the ground and in all kinds of places we can imagine where you don't want it to end up when it's on your body. That doesn't happen. If you have that bunched styling that isn't controlled, then chaos can ensue, and all of a sudden you have a disaster.
I'm going to play with it. I'm going to play with my buttons and my sticks and everything, and I'm going to see if I can't get one of those to do a flat lay. I think when you think about it and you sort of fold it this way and that, and then you can actually secure it, I think maybe it could work.
They can. You can very quickly end up in what I call compensatory styling territory. Compensatory styling is when you're compensating for the fact that the piece is essentially unwearable. So you have to go to extraordinary heroic measures to make it work. And that's, sometimes the extraordinary heroic measures result in something amazing. really amazing and exciting. But sometimes you can kind of, it's like, okay, I got it to work. It feels terrible. I'm taking it off.
I just don't
It's a
like things that
fail.
look, I don't like affectation, right? I don't like things that look, it's like the opposite of je ne sais quoi.
Right.
Affectation.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I think that's a challenge for our styling night. I would love to have you come down. We'd be happy to feed you all the champagne you can drink. Even give you a
Oh
place
dear,
to
and
stay.
I'd have to camp out down there because it's kind of a drive.
Yeah, we have a spot for you.
I want to show you. So I want to show you an idea that came up in this in a thing I did over the weekend. I did a Zoom. I went to Illinois via Zoom. And what we were talking about was how to make a long rectangle into a shrug.
Yes.
And the way to do it, you just need 4 stud buttons, of course. All you need is stud buttons for everything.
There should be a song.
And
all you need is stud buttons. Dun,
yeah.
dun, dun.
So what I did was I don't have the right rectangle, so I ended up using this. And what happened was exciting, and I think I can reproduce it here. So one stud goes at the end.
At the cuff.
This is the cuff of the sleeve that you're creating for this shrug. And I was saying, just imagine the other side's the same, but the fact that the other side isn't the same ended up being very interesting. So I'll just try to reproduce that for you. So you see I have this little shape because this is really an asymmetrical triangle with blunted ends. There are no points. I just like cut the points off, but it would have been an asymmetrical triangle. So I fold that up. So now I've got kind of an interesting sleeve. So I'm going to put another component there. See, one of the things I love about this is like I'm playing and it's kind of like, oh, what will happen if I do this? And I don't have to commit to any of it.
Right. It's not like, you can't just take it out.
And it takes, virtually no time. Okay, so I don't have enough length really to do the same thing on the other side. So what I did was I just brought this up over the shoulder, right? So now I've got a sleeve that's coming up over the shoulder. Maybe I'll.
But you would need something at that shoulder. You would put another.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I do. One or two more.
Yeah.
Buttons. So I've used 2. So then I need one that's here, right?
Right. That look is cute. That's sort of like Hunger Games kind of thing,
Yes.
Right.
And this was just, I was like figuring it out on the hoof because the question was, what do you do with a long rectangle? And I was like, I don't have a long rectangle. So picture this, just imagine.
I have a long rectangle right here. I'm going to have to try that.
Right. So
that looks good. Yeah, that's cute.
So I want one more, I think, just so, because what I don't want is that to happen. Although I don't know.
That's okay.
It looks cool.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
But maybe I would want to control where this relates to this. And so if I decide that I want to do that, I can either connect that into that one button. That could be nice. Add that in so that the 3 pieces of knitwear come together in that little spot.
It gives you the opportunity to just sort of gather it up and pin it there, like in a more elegant way than safety pins.
Right. And the safety pin will eat your fiber, right?
Right. So I know that I had a comment earlier from Arlene, and she was asking me, and I think this is something that you could absolutely do, and it's very similar, is turning a large rectangle into a poncho shape. It's the same sort of concept.
Right. And I like when I do that, one of the ways to do it is to bring the two ends of the rectangle, bring the rectangle over your shoulders in the front asymmetrically, so it's not completely lined up. Oh, I didn't capture one of my ends. I thought I had it. But anyway, well, you get the idea.
Yes.
Let me demonstrate the other thing that you're just asking about. Bring the two pieces into the front, but asymmetrically. And then using a few stud buttons or pedestal buttons.
You can never have too many. I think you need at least 6. Don't you think?
Yeah. I think having 6 in your toolbox is good. Because there are going to be some pieces that you're going to love where those buttons are so much that you're going to say, no, I'm never moving them. They're going to live on this piece because I don't want to have to try to find that particular styling again. I leave closures in place on certain pieces of knitwear, and I always wear them in that particular way.
Right. It's like a button that you would sew on, only you don't have to.
Yeah. So imagine this is my rectangle. And instead of lining it up like that, I'm going to have it be asymmetrical, right?
Why? Just because?
Because it will look less like a blanket. Because some of those big rectangles are so big.
Yes.
They really do have a blankety vibe if you let them be symmetrical.
You could do this and you could make these shawls into a skirt if you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun.
Yeah, you could. You totally could. Yeah.
Okay, so that's like a capelet there.
Right now it is.
Oh, I'll wait. I'll shut up. Yes.
Rotate a quarter turn.
Yes, and there's your poncho. Mm-hmm. Are you watching, Arlene?
Okay, and then
yes.
So you see cute. What happens with the asymmetry? It's more exciting.
Yeah, asymmetrical is always a little more interesting, I think.
And so what you have here, so we started out with a rectangle, but now we've got, which means we have horizontals. Horizontals tend to cut you wherever they hit. What diagonals do is they keep the eye moving around the body. So the eye is moving up the body to the face. The eye is moving up the body to the shoulder, up the shoulder to the face. So you're getting the eye to move in the way that you want it to. You're saying, look at my face. Look at my face. Look at my face.
Clearly you're an artist with that whole, the eye moving around.
And it's not only look at my face, but, notice the curve of my waist and then look at my face and notice the line of my hip and then look at my face.
Not to mention, look at my knitwear. Look at my knitwear. Look at my knitwear. Look at my hand-dyed yarn.
And you can see the knitting because it's not all bunched up. You can really see the knitting. And, this is not exciting knitting, but it is exciting styling. So imagine if it's brioche, then you can see that beautiful brioche because you have a dynamic flat styling that's keeping the eye moving around the body and enhancing the shape of the body because you're not cutting the body at any given point and stopping the eye.
Yes. And I know you don't like to knit lace or whatever, but I think this would be absolutely appropriate. If, your rectangle could be a lace rectangle or an eyelet rectangle or, mesh knitting, it could be any fabric at all. It doesn't have to be garter stitch, it could be anything.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, I do garter stitch because I don't want, I I chose to make my shapes in garter partly because if I did a Stephen West piece as one of my examples, excuse me, then everybody who's ever knit Stephen West would say, oh, she hasn't been knitting in a while. That's from 2016. Because I don't spend all my time knitting. And so I would always have the old design that everybody moved on from way, way back. So.
Right. You know, I think what you're saying is that the shawls you knit are not trendy. They're timeless, which is fabulous. I mean, we spend so much time and money and energy creating this knitwear. Nobody wants it to look dated, right? And what I love everything about you, but what I love most about you is the way that you're able to take something that for a lot of people has such an kind of an old lady vibe. Oh, you're knitting a shawl? Who knits shawls? Or, you know, you wear the shawl and you feel dated or, you know, dowdy or whatever. But no, I mean, it's all in the styling and having those very cool structures in place, and the asymmetrical styling makes it so much more modern. And you can make any shape at all. You know, you've had this one shawl. You could take that shawl and have 5 different outfits, and, you know, black pants and a black turtleneck, and nobody would know that you're wearing the same thing every day.
Nobody would know that you were actually wearing the same shawl. You know, so I mentioned turning things upside down. Like if we take the point and put it to the top, then what you have is a big shawl collar on your shawl. And what happens then, so here's that methodology I was telling you about. See, now I've got this volume on this side. What happens if I tuck this up underneath?
Oh, isn't that cute?
And I can make this stay like this, so it will stay all day. Like this is one of those like, oh, that's impossible. No, not with the buttons.
So you're going to put the buttons on that? Show us where you would put the buttons to make that one work. Because I love that big shawl collar. I think that portrait collar is so flattering.
So I need to keep these layers managed so that they stay together. So this needs to get married to this. And let's say I don't want you to know that I'm holding it together in any way. I can hide. With this styling, I can hide all of the connections underneath.
Again, with the effortless.
So now I've got one here.
Yes.
I'm going to do another one here, up under here.
What I'm getting from you is that you kind of just have to put it on and then mess with it and try and break it and figure out where you need to put clips when you break it.
Right. So let's see. If I know that I want this relationship to be maintained, then I need to put a closure here, or this whole thing will migrate over.
Right.
So let's see if I can hide that. I think I can connect them up under here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I do this when we are trying our new closures. I sent a goose a piece of knitwear. It's always really funny when he puts this piece of, it's got holes in it now. It's like this little thing. And he's in Bali, it's tropical. He's always got his shirt off. So the goose puts this little piece of knitwear on his naked torso and puts shawls in it and starts going like this. Oh, that's so cute. I should make a video. So
I think he would kill you. He would kill you.
No, he would think it was funny.
Okay, that's cute. Upside down. Okay, real quick, because we're already at an hour, but I wanted to have you show just real quick, the cuffs that you use, because that's very new.
Oh, right.
We
Yes.
didn't talk about the cuffs.
Yes, I can. And I'm going to grab something else really quick. I'll be right back.
So I have this one with me. You guys who have been in the shop know that this is just a really long ribbed shawl. But you wrap it around and you put one of these sticks in, and you can, weave it in and out like that. I have a brand new way to wear this shawl that I always felt was like too long. So you'll probably be seeing me wearing that soon in the shop. All right, what we got?
Okay, so this is a shallow crescent. And so I have a shawl pin cuff combination. So this is the third eye chakra pin cuff. So stick, ring. So these cuffs snap on and off, so you can remove them. And so I can wear this with the pin like this. So that's fine.
Right.
But what if this is really lacy and I know that I don't want to penetrate it because I'm afraid that the stick, the penetration of the fiber will disrupt my lace and pull something out of whack. That's when I go to the cuff, because what the cuff is going to do is going to capture volume instead of penetrating the fiber in any way like the other closures do. Because all of the other closures penetrate the fiber in some way, in between the stitches with the little stud button thing or with the stick or whatever. They're all going to go in between, they're going to go into the fabric. But the cuff just goes around the fabric. And so adding the strap to the ring of the shawl pin gives you the ornament without the penetration.
Beautiful.
So you can use the shawl pin shawl cuff combination in 3 ways. You can use the stick alone to control 4 inches of knitwear in one go. You can use the shawl pin ring and the stick together as a conventional shawl pin, or you can attach that cuff and capture the volume. This is my favorite way to use the cuff.
That's beautiful. You could, if you wanted, I guess, too, maybe do that and then use your stick like for another place to secure it if you needed to, huh?
You could, depending on what the styling is that you were developing. I ran into the other room because I got a textile. This is a hand-woven textile from Bali. And it's actually part of a men's ceremonial costume. It's called a saput. So it's shorter than a sarong, but it's a beautiful piece of fabric, and I wouldn't want to pin it. But I am willing to put a cuff around it.
Yes.
And then it's really, really pretty.
Yes. This is beautiful for like silk scarves or pashmina.
Yeah. Because then the ornament in the front is that ring.
Right. And it's still really light though.
It's very light.
Oh, that's beautiful, Laura.
Great. Yeah.
I think Polly
said
it best.
Yeah, the cuffs, I would say you don't have a huge range of possible stylings with cuffs because you're capturing volume, so you need the layers that you're trying to control to overlap. Like I would say, don't bring I'll just demonstrate. What I have seen some people do with cuffs is this. They bring the pieces together and then wrap around. The risk there is that the cuff falls off.
Right.
When you cross it, then you're not going to lose the cuff.
Yes. Oh, that's brilliant. And you can wear the cuff as a bracelet too, right?
Oh, yeah. And I do make them custom lengths. So
I think I have the standard length, but if we needed a larger or a smaller one, I'm sure you could do that, right?
Yes. So these are really, they're designed for shawls, but if you have the right size wrist, then yay. And so let's see if I can get, yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's so pretty.
It's very pretty. It's very pretty. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you decide to take your shawl off, you know, and you can just fold it up and put it in your purse, and then you can wear the shawl thing on your wrist.
You know, the other possibility too, and I haven't done this, but I just thought of it because I was putting some things away in my studio the other day. You can even, if you like, this is a pretty dressy piece and the straps are leather. If you had a strip of silk, you could create a cuff for your shawl pin ring that is the same fabric or a complementary fabric. Like, you know, like I have some bias cut strips of blue silk taffeta that with some of my textiles would be amazing to have a big bow on both sides of the ring, creating the cuff. It would be gorgeous.
Yes.
Or, you know, a wrist like that, a wrist bracelet like that would be really, really
You could even do something with your hair.
Yes, I do have people use my shawl pins and sticks for hair.
I may or may not have used the calla stick in my hair. This is fabulous.
Yeah, yeah.
So this was wonderful. Real quick, does anybody have any questions for Laura before she goes? Go ahead and put them in the chat. Laura, this has been amazing. You are so incredibly talented, and I love your stuff.
Thank you.
And we'd love to have you come to our styling party. I'm going to schedule that for probably January. I think we'll need something like that in the dark, cold days of January. You know, that would be a fun Sunday afternoon or that kind of thing, you know, lots of champagne. Because if you're at a party and there's no champagne, you're not at my house.
Well, and it does encourage one to engage in, you know, that when you have that kind of looser vibe from having a little bit of wine or something, I think we do become more willing to say, okay, fine, I'll try that too.
Right.
Fine, I'll put it on like that.
Yes. So which clasps?
She might be asking about the ones that I took on and off without saying a word about them.
Polly doesn't miss much.
These are so this is a short rectangle. The pattern is free on my website, and that's not the right way. But, it's called Samo cowl, and it's really a neat pattern because it wraps around the shoulders in a nice way because it's an asymmetrical piece. So it's not really flat. And I laced these Marrakesh clasps on to the knitwear and just tied them in back. And it's a hook and eye closure. And so it's got, rather than a big ring with a hook, which allows a free rotation of the closure, we've got a flush, we've got a flush connection there that gives it a neater look and also manages the way it can move. There's not total free play in the movement of the closure. So it's going to keep the closure relatively stable, keep where you're closing your piece relatively stable in the body. And so I just added it into this short rectangle. And it's super comfortable. And they're, it's very easy to put on and off. And I think you can see, I just sort of laced it with a tapestry needle and tied it on the back. So I don't think of these as permanent closures at all. They can go anywhere. Oh, I can't hear you now. Did I lose something that means I don't have sound?
I'm sorry. I turned off my microphone while I was typing. I put a link to the free patterns that Laura has on her website. I put it in the chat.
Okay.
So, yeah. On the back of that's not the leather backing. It's something else, right?
On this?
Yeah.
They're just closures that have loops.
I see. Yes.
Can you
Okay.
see that?
Right. Yes.
So you have to use a tapestry needle to lace them on. You can use a small ribbon. You can use yarn. They can just lace on. It's a big hole. This one is another style called
Beautiful.
Corinthian clasp. Now
But they don't
Ellen
have to
doesn't
be
have
permanent.
these yet, but she might be persuaded to bring them in.
I absolutely would. I want them all.
I know.
So super, super to have you. And then we will do a styling event in January. If you want to be notified about that, make sure that you sign up for our free weekly newsletter. There is a link in the description of this video. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a comment or a thumbs up. You can find Laura Bellows at juldesigns.com. So you should go over there. You should follow her on Instagram, and she will be back with us again after the first of the year, won't you, darling?
I will.
We are
and for those of you who sometimes I do tours of certain products. So if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll get announcements of the tours that I do on Zoom, where you can register for it. You'll get the link, and then you can come and, like, for example, maybe we would talk all about shawl sticks, or maybe we would talk about even more about.
But you're going to come back and do the podcast again with me, right?
Indeed, I will.
All right.
I'd love to.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Absolutely lovely to have you. And thank you for watching and for commenting and for being here. And until next week, knit a shawl and style it beautifully with a Jul shawl pin. There's a link in the comments, and they're on the website. So we will see you all next time. Thanks so much, Laura. Good night.
Thanks. Bye.